All right, how's it going, everybody? This is Corey Lee, and today, man, we got a lot to go over. This video is going to be geared toward my guys in the audio world, audio community, and yes, I'm actually making this video for one guy in particular, and that guy is the guy over at Red Cabin Acoustics. So I told him that I would test out some microphones for him. And let's go ahead and get this one all set up here. So one of the tests that I told him I was gonna do was about the AKG 4000B. And one of them I took the inner foam out of. And I told him that I was going to do a test comparison between the one with the inner foam and the one with the outer foam. But honestly, I'm not going to make that video anymore. Simply because they both sound the same with the inner foam and outer foam. And then another reason is I just can't do it anymore because that's a huge distraction. Sorry. So I just can't do it anymore. And that is because when I went to check the inner foam on the newer AKG 4000B, that also deteriorated. And so I opened up the mic. I pulled out the capsule from the grill and I touched the foam and it fell apart. So I just took it out. Yeah, I just took it out. But they both sound pretty much the same anyway. So enough of that. I think that this is going to be a far more interesting video. So let me go ahead and record in this other mic I have here. And I'm running all of this through my Zoom H6 field recorder. So I'm actually doing a test comparison between the 4000 and the 3000B. Not the 3000 and not the older 3000 and not the new 3000, which is the same as the 3000B. Okay, so I did something to that mic. And so both of these mics are kind of at the same distance. So I don't know if a lot of my subscribers know this about me, but I pretty much live in the audio community. I'm trying not to make so many audio videos and gear comparisons and hacks and things of that nature, but I've done my fair share of gear hacks on this video. On this channel. I apologize about that. So I'm having both of these mics in cardioid because the 3000B is only cardioid. And so far you have only heard me speaking into the 4000B. So the 3000, I did something to it, but I'm going to let you hear it. For all of those guys wanting to know what the difference between these are like, okay? So on my Zoom H6, they are at a gain level of 5, both. And now I am here at the 3000B. So I'm sure you probably noticed they do sound different, but kind of similar in some ways. So one of the things that the 3000B is very rivaled for is the fact that it sounds extremely harsh. Like it has a high-end boost, which it actually does have a high-end boost. Not just harsh, but a lot of people say thin. Yes. If you look at online reviews and people in the forums, a lot of people make this mic sound terrible. If you look on the front page of Google and look at the reviews that Google present you on the Google page, you're going to find really good reviews. In forums, bad reviews. Google, good reviews. So Now, I used to have a 3000B before. I gave it away because it sounded extremely thin in comparison to the 2000B that I had before that. Gave it away, didn't really give a mic a chance, stuff like that. But then when I got this one, I didn't really notice the same kind of sound that I had out of it before, which was that thin and harsh kind of sound. I didn't really notice that. So I still went and modded this mic. And there's a piece on the circuit board. If you look at the schematic, I believe that piece is C3002. There's a piece on the circuit board that is responsible for giving this mic that harsh high-end boost. I took it out. And now this mic has a much, much higher low-end response than the 4000B, which is what I bought the 4000B for in the first place, was having a mic that has a more extended low-end response. So one of the things that I find quite similar between these two mics, let's go back to the 4000. So one of the things that I find quite similar, I mean, not similar, but different between these two mics is that the 4000 has more mids. So the 4000 do have that presence boost, but it's not ugly. In fact, it sounds more natural. Like, to me, this mic sound a lot more natural than the 3000 does. The 3000 sounds very mid scooped, and like it is mid scooped. The 4000 is too. Both of them are mid scooped at 2K, 2000 hertz or 2 kilohertz. But the 4000 is a much more narrow scoop at 2K, and the 3000 is a very broad scoop at 2K, ranging from like 1.5K to almost 3K. It's like that whole section is just kind of dipped. And then the 4000 has a presence peak and then a really narrow dip somewhere in the presence area, and then it peaks again. So it kind of dips where it would sound harsh, and it gives you a good sound where it just wouldn't. But the 3000, however, that whole boost is took off the circuit board. So let's go back to the 3000. So one thing that I will say is that after doing that mod, I like the mic a whole lot more. And in fact, I noticed the low end more on this mod than I did without it. Because the thing about it is that if you look at the frequency response chart between both of these mics, the 3000 has a much higher increase in the lows and the lower mids than the 4000 does. So that's probably why AKG did that presence boost, was to do to try and balance that out. But the thing about it is that it sucks. Okay. And it make people hate this mic more than it actually deserved to be. So you could find these used on eBay for about $80 to $150 with a shock mount, somewhere around that. I do have a second one on the way, so I ended up acquiring two. The second one is on the way, stock, unmodified. And another thing I did to both the 4000 and 3000 was I pulled out the inner foam. The inner foam really do make the mic on the 3000 sound like it's forcing itself to try and pick up sound. And I think that that's what was the most of what made the mic sound bad, because after I took out the foam, I noticed an even bigger difference than I did after I did the mod. Honestly, I think pulling out the foam made the mic sound like a totally different mic altogether. In fact, I had a hard time even knowing if I was even recording on the proper side of the capsule with the foam in. I'm like, what side is the capsule on? Because it sound the same on both sides. Like it sounded equally bad on both sides of the capsule with the foam in. So I took it out. And so I think another part of what make these mics sound different is the shape of the head basket. And I believe that you can take the head basket off the 2000B and actually fit it on the 3000. That's what I heard somebody say. And I think I'm going to try it. So another thing that I want to finally announce is that I finally found an AI noise reduction plugin to reduce all the traffic noise I tend to pick up in here. I don't know how many times I have to say in almost every video that I make, please excuse the road noise. I am stationed on a busy street, and this is the wrong place to be using condenser mics. It just really is, because I hear all the traffic from outside through here. Not to mention the room is untreated, and I tend to get some sort of echo when I'm using cardioid condensers. But that echo is quite reduced when I'm using shotgun mics. Somebody ended up giving me sometime last year, around this time last year, MKE 600, and that is literally my favorite shotgun mic. And that's the mic I usually use in here, is the MKE 600. It tend to knock down some of the reverb, and it make me sound like I'm talking right in your ear. But I still get a lot of traffic noise from outside. So I finally found an AI plugin to reduce that. Like I get semi trucks and everything coming by. That's what really just came by. And I don't know how much of this traffic noise is going to be reduced with that plugin. I just don't know. So that's why I'm recording at this time of day, which is midday, when I get the most traffic. Most of the time I record, I try and come around 2 in the morning, something like that, just so that way I get the least amount of traffic and have the least amount of interruptions in audio. And for crying out loud, do not let it be raining, because when it's raining, it sounds worse, because then you can hear the rain on the road with the tires and the splashes and all sorts of stuff like that. So let's go back to the 4000. I just want to do a comparison for this guy, because I know if I tell him, because I was commenting on his video about him testing out 2 different mics, which is how I discovered that AKG made a 4000B at the time. If I were to tell him that I modded the 3000 and that high end peak, which I didn't think sounded all that bad when I heard the mic. It didn't sound bad to me. I actually liked it. I'm like, this actually don't sound bad at all. And I made one video with it. And that was the video I just recently made about self-consciousness. And that was stock. No foam though. That was before the mod. So let's go back to the 4000 here. So we're back here on the 4000. Hopefully this plugin take off some of my reverb. So if I were to tell him that I modded the 3000, I'm sure he would want to know what it sounds like. I'm sure he would. So before I even get there, I just want to mention him in this video and just like let him know. The only thing you would notice a little different about my audio, and I don't believe that this plugin do that much to it, if anything at all, is that I am having noise reduction to decrease some of the reverb and ambient. I played with it on some of my previous audio files, and I did not notice a decrease in quality except for when I am recording in a space that is mostly noise. If it's mostly noise like outside or something like that, and I'm using the wrong mic that's not really isolating a lot of the noise, is when I get quality reduction. So that plugin is called Supertone Clear. And Supertone Clear, it is AI based, and it reduces a lot of, like, it would literally take off all the reverb and all the outside noise. Anything but a voice, it takes out. So hopefully what I can do is I can just loop some of my audio clips, like just loop some of them. I might even loop the whole video just so that way you can hear what the entire video sound like with and without noise reduction. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because I get different noise as the day goes by. I just had a semi truck go by and had a loud boom. And I'm like, man, see, and at a point in time, I wanted to make this space a studio. And I said no. Even if I were to treat the walls, because I have to redo the walls all over again. I don't know if you can tell, but right here behind me, I'm down to the beams. So there were walls put up, then beams put up, and then wood panels put up on top of it. I took all the wood panels down except for on like one side of the room. So I'm down to the beams, and I was going to insulate all the walls before I put in drywall. Like really thick, dense drywall, just to try and reduce a lot of that outside noise. Go back to the 3000 here. So we're back here on the 4000. Hopefully this plugin take off some of my reverb. So if I were to tell him that I modded the 3000, I'm sure he would want to know what it sounds like. I'm sure he would. So before I even get there, I just want to mention him in this video and just like let him know. The only thing you would notice a little different about my audio, and I don't believe that this plugin do that much to it, if anything at all, is that I am having noise reduction to decrease some of the reverb and ambient. I played with it on some of my previous audio files, and I did not notice a decrease in quality except for when I am recording in a space that is mostly noise. If it's mostly noise like outside or something like that, and I'm using the wrong mic that's not really isolating a lot of the noise, is when I get quality reduction. So that plugin is called Supertone Clear. And Supertone Clear, it is AI based, and it reduces a lot of, like, it would literally take off all the reverb and all the outside noise. Anything but a voice, it takes out. So hopefully what I can do is I can just loop some of my audio clips, like just loop some of them. I might even loop the whole video just so that way you can hear what the entire video sound like with and without noise reduction. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because I get different noise as the day goes by. I just had a semi truck go by and had a loud boom. And I'm like, man, see, and at a point in time, I wanted to make this space a studio. And I said no. Even if I were to treat the walls, because I have to redo the walls all over again. I don't know if you can tell, but right here behind me, I'm down to the beams. So there were walls put up, then beams put up, and then wood panels put up on top of it. I took all the wood panels down except for on like one side of the room. So I'm down to the beams, and I was going to insulate all the walls before I put in drywall. Like really thick, dense drywall, just to try and reduce a lot of that outside noise. Go back to the 3000 here. And so yeah, like that's what I was gonna do. And I since then told myself I don't even want to do that. I think I might just be better off renting a space that is already most of the way ready to go. Only thing I have to do is acoustic treatment. That's pretty much it. So one thing I want to tell you about this plugin is that if your audio, like if your mic is bad, your audio is still gonna sound like it was recorded with a bad mic. If your acoustics are bad to an extent, it's not gonna take out all of that bad acoustics, but it will pick out the reverb. So that's one thing I want to tell you is it's not a permanent solution to having a proper vocal recording space. It's not permanent. If you have to make content in an area that usually has a lot of vocal noise, like kids running around and stuff like that, it is going to recognize that as a voice and keep it in the background. So that's for all my content creators out there that just want a better space to record in, because the space they record in don't sound that well. You get traffic noise, you get air conditioner, you get stuff like that, but they just don't have the money for a vocal booth, like a actual studio space. You just got to have a computer, because if you do most of your videos on your phone and you don't go through any editing processes on your computer, yeah, I'm sorry about that. So you need a computer. So Supertone Clear, as far as how I played with it before this video, it sounded like sorcery. I am not lying to you. So let me take out these pop filters here. I want to see if this makes any bit of a difference to the sound of the mic. Yep, I didn't drop the rubber band. And I'm back here on the 4000. Is this making any difference to the audio quality? I don't know, because I want you to hear the mics without anything in the way. So there's no inner foam, and the C3000B, that is, was modified. Man, that was a lot of noise that just came by. I wonder if you can hear it. So I no longer have to tell all of my viewers, please excuse my road noise. I'm right here on a busy street. Please. I don't have anywhere else to record but here. Other than that, I can go in the house with 4 TVs on and somebody upstairs screaming at Fortnite. So, yeah, let's go back to the 3000. So we back here on the 3000B. One of the things that I do want to say is that the 3000B is just a hair less sensitive than the 4000 is. It really just depends on how my mic is, how my mouth is placed, like around the capsule. I did notice that. All depending on the placement of the mic is really going to determine how it picks up my voice. The 4000, I don't get that much of it. So you'll notice the 3000 is very dipped in the mids. And the 4000 has a much more balanced sound. It do got that presence boost. I don't know if there's anywhere on the circuit board where it's adding that artificially, other than just letting the capsule do its job and just kind of, tuning it. You know what I'm saying? So that's about it. So let's go back to the 3000B. And like I said, I was making this video for this guy because I don't know if he knows about this mod. Some of the people that talked about the mod in one of the forums, they say how it sounds like a much more rich and usable mic now. And for the price that they go for, just because people don't like them because of how they sound stock, people are giving these mics away. Like literally, like they're giving them away. And I heard somebody say that it sounded quite similar to one of their C414s. I've never used a C414, so I have no idea if it do sound similar, but I do know it do sound a whole lot more rich now. And it don't even take a lot of skill. Like I took that piece off the circuit board with a wood burner because I don't have a soldering iron anymore. So I just used the wood burner to melt the solder off of that capacitor and just took the capacitor off. Unfortunately, because I used the wrong tip, I destroyed the capacitor, so I'm unable to put it back on. And I didn't record a lot of side-by-side comparisons between the mic with and without the what you call it, the capacitor on. So that's wraps up this video. I just thought that I might want to try this out for somebody who might be interested in this mic, but let the reviews of it scare them, because for the price of it, you cannot ask for a better cardioid mic after the mod. Take out the inner foam, open up the capsule a bit more so that it can actually pick up stuff properly, because that's quite a dense foam that's in there. And then take off the capacitor to take out some of that harshness and shrillness of the mic. And one thing that I will say about mics these days, like budget mics around the $100 range, the $200 range, even up to about the $500 range, is that they're very bright these days. And they make mics bright because they intend for people that don't know how to mix. Like they intend to market them to people that don't know how to mix, or don't really want to mix, or don't have the means to mix, or they're using them in ways where mixing is just not necessarily necessary, right? Because people are streaming and stuff like that, and then they say things like this, right? Then they say things like this. Oh, the mic has so much clarity and it's mix ready, and it has clarity and presence and it's mix ready and it's airy. And it's like, no, it's thin. Just be honest with people. It's a crap mic. Like, marketing words and stuff like that make people buy stuff that suck. I'm not lying to you. Like, if you had a mic that had a poor frequency response and it was bright and thin, marketing will say it's airy, it has presence, it has clarity. It's like, no, it's just thin. Like just be for real, it's thin. And these series of AKG mics, I don't know why they stopped making them. Like, these are, I prefer these over the Perception series mics or the P series mics. The P series mics are very bright and thin. But the thing about the P series mics, and I'm going to show you the one I have back here. The thing about the P series mics is that the circuit of these mics are an exact ripoff or a similar ripoff of the Neumann U87. You change one capacitor on this mic and it sounds quite similar to a Neumann U87. Dead serious. And I think companies design mics to sound cheap on purpose, knowing that they could have, for 10 more cents, 10 cents, you could have made this mic sound dang near perfect, and just chose not to, because you want to sell people a cheap mic first, then they realize they got a cheap mic, and then they buy a slightly better one, then they realize that one is still cheap sounding, and then they buy a slightly better one, and then they realize that one is not quite there yet, Like you know what I'm saying? Like that's what companies tend to do a lot these days. And I'm not saying that they did that here. Maybe they just didn't know any better. Maybe they didn't think about it. Maybe to them, to their ears, it sounded all right. But if you don't have anything to compare a lot of these budget mics to, then you're not really gonna understand. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you just ain't gonna understand. And budget mics these days, they just lack in low end, and they're just too high end, peaky. And look, if you're gonna spend $100, $200, just buy an older mic that was built better. Honestly, just do that. Like, for real. I think it is much more worth your money to just do that. That's the main reason I have been talking about these mics on this channel. For people that make music, stuff like that. If you make content, I might recommend a different kind of mic, like a pencil condenser, some kind of shotgun mic, or some kind of mic with hypercardioid, like this 4000B here. This 4000B has hypercardioid, so it's not necessarily picking up a lot of the stuff around me. Yeah, like it's not necessarily picking up a lot of the extra stuff around me. And I've got it in hypercardioid mode right now. So some kind of supercardioid, hypercardioid mic, a pencil condenser, a shotgun, short shotgun. I would much prefer one of those for content creation over a over a large diaphragm condenser or something like that. I mean, but a lot of people do use condenser studio style mics or USB mics and stuff like that for content because it works for them, you know. But like, if you're gonna buy a budget mic, hold on. If you're gonna buy a budget mic, just get an older, good one that was built better. I mean, these are built like a tank, internally shock mounted, and you can get them for less than nothing on eBay sometime with a shock mount for the price of a brand new shock mount. For real. So that's another thing I want to say. If you are gonna buy one, don't buy one without a shock mount. Please don't, because for the same price you're gonna get the mic for, buying a shock mount is gonna cost the same amount of money, and you would have essentially bought the mic twice. And all you got is one mic and one shock mount. Like, you would have essentially paid double the money for it. So yeah, buy one for 120, 150 with a shock mount. And instead of buying one for the same amount of money without one and then spending the same amount of money again for one. So that's my recommendation. That is my recommendation. Like, these newer style mics, I look. So that wraps up the end of this video. I'm making this video for the guy at Red Cabin Acoustics. That is who this video is for mostly, or just anybody that's searching up these mics on YouTube. They don't make them anymore. They're not that popular anymore. And I just wanted to breathe some new life into them, because these are getting ready to be my new music mics. Not necessarily my content mics. I have mics that I would prefer to use for content over these ones, you know. But Supertone clear, good plug-in to good plug-in for a temporary solution for not having a properly treated or located space. So other than that, y'all have a good rest of y'all day. Peace.